let us talk about the new patch 7.31c, a patch that many were hoping, praying to God would happen before the major, because without a patch, the meta would be pretty clearly defined, because we've been talking about this meta for literally months, and the patch previous to it was found to be a little bit just okay. So let's start things off. Desolator, Soul Stealer max stacks reduces the amount of max damage a Deso can have. So this means that Deso as a late game item is slightly worse. So a team that is snowballing with Deso will do slightly less good. There's a lot of heroes that Deso is really good on right now. Wraith King, Lifestealer sometimes buys it when they pick Lifestealer. TA is the most obvious one, but TA has kind of fallen off. But certainly like Wraith King type heroes. Anyone else that I'm missing? I think those are the major ones. Usually strength heroes are the ones that buy Deso. And yeah, so it's just going to be a little bit weaker in the late game. Considering it's low cost, it's going to make LD. I guess LD does buy it sometimes too, that's true. The dog chroma key looks a little weird, but I'll leave it there, screw it. Eye of Scotty, movement and attack speed slow against melee heroes rescaled. So it slows less your movement speed, but slightly more your attack speed. There's been a little bit of an adjustment for attack speed slows being buffed the last couple patches. So this could actually end up being more impactful against range heroes. Similar thing, less movement speed slow, which I think is very fair, and more attack speed slow. The problem is that Eye of Scotty against range cores is just fucking insanely good, especially ones that also heal. So if you're a range core that needs to heal to be effective or survive, it's just busted. The heal is still good. The anti-heal is still good because it's still 40%, but only slowing ranged units for 40 instead of 50 is going to be a big difference. It's like a 30 movement speed difference from being Scottied, and considering that Scotty would then go through BKB as well, there's going to be certainly some matchups where this makes a difference. Somebody gets one less right click before they get away, kind of a thing. More attack speed slow is not terrible either, but mostly that's only valid against other carries. So if you buy Scotty against a range carry, that's where it matters, because those heroes actually, their attack speed actually matters. Everybody else, no one really cares. Like if you're killing some support, it doesn't really matter how fast they can attack. So this is certainly a nerf to Scotty, because generally you're utilizing Scotty as a guaranteed somebody dies item. Less so like buying Scotty. I mean, like, you're still it's gonna be easier to run away, but standing and fight while being Scotty is gonna be weaker. So I guess having Scotty against heroes that are winning is better, because those heroes don't care if they can run away. Those heroes will be fighting you to the death. So I'd argue that if you're close on net worth and you have good gap close anyway, Scotty could be seen as like a one-up item over your opponent to counter both lifesteal and their ability to kill you with physical damage or right clicks. So yeah, Scotty's slightly better against OD, I would argue, for example. Giving a more attack speed reduction is pretty powerful. Slightly better against heroes like Storm. Definitely better against heroes like Storm. So any hero that has like high mobility that's ranged, it's going to just straight up be better. So kind of cool.
Hooray!
Spirit Vessel recipe cost is going to be increased by 100, which is going to make it a little bit harder to get. A lot of supports Russia right now, some cores as well, Invoker type heroes. Spirit Vessel still really solid. Satanic damage reduced by 7. This one's a little weird to me because Satanic does not seem to be bought all the time, but definitely a sometimes thing. But maybe its win rate is really high or something. Not quite sure. Earn to Shadows getting nerfed is a big one, actually, especially because both of these are nerfed, actually. So 40 gold increase for Earn. It really, truly was like an incredibly low cost item for what it gives you. But the cost going up means that you get it later in lane, which means you might lose charges or not gain charges when you want in the laning stage, but whatever, it's probably fair. And then so Spirit Vessel as a whole is 140 gold more expensive now, which is quite a lot. But again, pretty good item still. Vlad's recipe cost is reduced from 400 to 250. So that makes Vlad's a lot better to get. This is actually one of the big things that was a problem with Vlad's, is that the item costs 2,600 gold, which is kind of a lot for a supporty aura-based item. It being lower cost is going to be certainly appealing towards building it. It still gives you a lot of things. Armor to allies, mana regen, percent bonus damage, lifesteal. I like buying it sometimes on like offlane or utility heroes that want to buff up if I have a lot of right-clicking cores, because the extra lifesteal can genuinely make a difference. Not to mention the damage, and the armor is not bad. Heroes like Brewmaster Would love to buy it, but it doesn't really fit into his itemization because the Ag's refresher build is just so good. But it could be more of an option. They buffed Helm of the Overlord by increasing the lifesteal, so Vlad's becomes better lifesteal wise. If you upgrade it, the mana regen goes up, and they did the same thing for Wraith Pact as well. This was a bug on Wraith Pact. The aura of the Wraith totem was the radius was 900 on it. When they put that in the game, it reduced the. So they probably used the same variable for AoE, like radius or something. So they, by making the totem radius 900, it made the Vlad's aura coming out of Wraith Pact 900 instead of 1200. So it actually made your Vlad's aura worse if you upgraded to Wraith Pact. They've since fixed that. The aura goes back up to 1200, which is a normal aura radius. They also increased the damage reduction of the totem by 5%, and they increased the DPS. I actually think Wraith Pact is situationally really good. Very situationally. I imagine it's going to feel even better now because the aura is higher and they buffed the totem a little bit. Also, if you cast it, you delete previous tomes. Before, you could play Tinker, Rush Wraith Pact, and just like resummon these and spread them across the map, across the fight. It was really broken, but more lifesteal and a little bit more mana regen. The item is still situational, I would argue, but there are some games where it's good. I like buying. I think on a hero like Underlord, it can make sense because you already lower damage by your aura. This would also reduce the damage that people do. I think it's all damage reduction. So it should do physical, magic, everything. If you are like something like a Pugna, kind of makes sense. You shouldn't buy it on Pugna because there's almost no way that's value. But like if your Netherward already reduces their damage, using Wraith Totem to also reduce their damage makes some sense. So if you have a heal type hero, there's some sense in having Wraith Pact as well. There's stuff like that. Is the mana in the aura or in the item? The mana goes for... It's the aura, for sure. Definitely the aura. It gives you raw mana and raw health, 250 each, which is okay. But yeah, it's an aura as well. So giving it a little bit better mana regen, I think, is fine. But yeah, Vlad's a little bit better. I've only seen like 1 or 2 people buy Vlad's, with the exception of Helm of the Overlord. Basically, any offlaner that buys Helm of the Dominator usually upgrades it to Helm of the Overlord. But a little buff here is probably not the worst. It's been nerfed quite a few times. Harpy Scout, the bane of most pro games. The Harpy Scout has too much vision, basically. It would fly in the air and give 1800 day and night vision. So it'd be like a massive... It's like Night Stalker ulti constantly. It was really difficult to fight around it and made games a little bit, dare I say, toxic or stupid. So it's getting nerfed. 1200 day vision is reasonable. 800 night vision is... not that incredible, but it's still more balanced because it'll still be flying, and therefore you can park it on a tree or a cliff or something like that. But they've also nerfed the mana cost as well. The mana cost is more. 2.5% was about what was even, so it could infinitely fly, but 4% means that it will eventually run out of mana. But it's probably balanced here, I would assume. You could still use it to control Roche or smaller objectives like an individual tower, but before it was just way too big. You could kind of put it between like towers and just have like utter map control outside of smokes or invis heroes. So this is really good. Also nerfing Dark Troll Summoner, raised egg cooldown increased by a little bit, so it's harder to have multiple rounds of skeletons available and attacking, and the duration is also down by 5 seconds. So before it would last for 40, so you could summon a second time, and for 4 seconds have 3 sets. Now you can summon again, and you only have 15 seconds of double Dark Trolls. If you get multiple Dark Trolls, then obviously you can get a crap load of skeletons, and you can do some really fun stuff with it. But I think this is ultimately good, and 1 less armor on the skeletons as well, so they're even easier to clear. Against physical damage, magic damage will be the same. So glyphs, for example, will clean them up a little bit quicker. I don't know if it's enough to one-shot them. Kind of depends. I'd have to check, but there could be something significant like that. But either way, if you're playing like Tidehunter or Kunkka or something, you're going to kill them much easier. If you're auto-attacking them, you'll kill them easier. Arc Warden base damage gets increased by 4 on the bottom end, so that's a 2 average. So his base damage gets increased by 2. Should be easier for him to lane. This is actually pretty significant base damage. 51 to 57, that's an average of like 54 or something like that. So if you buy stat items, you're getting up to like 60 damage. It's pretty significant. I haven't tried playing him in years, but maybe it's time. Fighting Arc Warden. Axe gets a little nerf. Base health regen reduced by a tiny amount, and his bonus armor gets reduced. I didn't really see Axe get picked that often. It was a sometimes pick. If I had to guess, this nerf is probably for pubs. I bet Axe's win rate went up at like low MMRs, so they're just nerfing him a little bit in a way that's not going to be the end of the world. The bonus armor reduction is like, from Berserker's Call, is not that big of a deal. But I guess both are pretty tiny little nerfs. Bane getting nerfed. Again, Fiend's Grip max channel time reduced from 6 to 5 up to 6. So 70 less pure damage with the level 1 grip, less duration. I think 5 seconds of grip is still really powerful and useful. When it takes you 6 seconds to kill a hero, you're kind of stretched thin anyways, but this sounds fine to me. Bloodseeker, Blood Mist, Shard, which I think means the Ags. Is it called Shard? It's called Blood Mist. The self damage is now magical instead of pure. It used to do... Sprays blood around him, damaging himself to damage and slow enemies, while active Thirst's healing is increased. So, yeah, it used to do pure to yourself, magic to enemies. So you definitely did more damage to yourself than your enemies. Now you're doing equal damage to yourself as your enemies. That means if you get a hood or magic resistance, Blood Mist will do probably less damage to you than your opponents. Think of it like Rot. It's basically going to be like Rot now. 7% per second cost and damage. So the more HP you have, the more damage it's going to do as well, I believe. The shard damage to enemies increased from 5 to 7. Again, I think that means... I don't know why it says shard. That's confusing to me. And then shard cooldown from 4 to 3. That means that when you turn it on, you can turn it off faster if you want it to turn off. Is it still hot garbage? Probably. But it's definitely better. It's literally Rot. It's very much Rot. Yeah, Waga said on stream that he thought it'd be too OP because you can mitigate the magic resist. Yeah, it's like I said, it's basically Rot. If I have 2000 HP, this is doing 140 damage per second to myself and my opponent after reduction around 100 damage to both of us. If you get a lot of HP, let's say you have 4000 HP, then we're doing 280 magic damage per second. The radius is huge. 450 is massive. That's like the whole fucking screen. That part could be sick. If you do something like he recommended Eternal Shroud with it, could be insanely good. Because if you start doing AoE damage, you're killing creeps, you're healing from those, and the Thirst Heal bonus you get is 50%. I mean, offlane for it is maybe not something I would expect because that's kind of a lot of items. To buy the Ags, it's 4,200 gold. So that's already a lot to commit to your hero just to get some AoE damage. Maybe it's more viable as like a carry thing. So don't buy Radiance, you buy Ags, and you get like a cloak into a hood, into an Eternal Shroud, and you stand in enemies and do AoE damage. That could be good. I could see it being incredibly good against a PL. If you want to play Bloodseeker and go Ags against him, I think that would be really sick. It'd be very quick, very fast, which hero's real. The only downside is you don't get heals from illusions, I don't think. So maybe it's dangerous, but BKB, you take no damage. Yeah, I think you're probably right because it's similar to Rot. It doesn't pierce spell immunity, so it won't affect you. Yeah, it's basically Rot. It's a little too close to Rot for my liking, maybe, but because I want Rot to make sense. I want like Ags Pudge to be good, but this is probably gonna be better Ags Pudge, I would guess. Broodmother Spinweb mana cost reduced by 10. Chaos Knight Chaos Bolt shard range decreased by 150. That's probably fair. It can be used like as a support to like ping from far away, but carries buy it anyways, and they just like destroy with it because their illusions do a lot of damage. It still does a lot of damage increase for a couple seconds, so I think it's still really valuable. Oops, that's my bad. Chaos Strike no longer applies bonus damage to creep heroes in Roshan. I forgot that they added that. It does 1.5 times damage to creeps. That means when it crits on creeps, that you are healing for 50% more, basically. So if you're Chaos Striking creeps, you're getting a lot of heal. Creep heroes would mean Lone Druid Bear, and Roshan is clearly Roshan. So things like Lone Druid Bear or any other creep heroes that are really obvious. Maybe like Infernal Golem or something like from Warlock ulti. Probably stuff like that. Maybe counters creep heroes, but I don't know the full list. So yeah, playing Lone Druid against CK is going to be better by far because he won't do 50% more damage from Chaos Strike. And Chaos Knight is still going to be fine basically. He'll still be able to lifesteal a lot from creeps. Chaos Bolt is still going to be basically good. Like Chaos Knight is virtually the same. He's just not going to hard counter Lone Druid Bear and kill Roshan as easily. But he'll be completely fine otherwise. Chaos Knight is still going to be really good against Rosh. The Reality Rift lowers armor, so that's always going to be good against Rosh. He'll still be completely fine. Chen base movement speed buffed by 5. Chen apparently still not that good. Hand of God is buffed as well, so 10 seconds less just buffs to Chen. Crystal Maiden, Freezing Field, explosion damage radius increased by 20, so every explosion from Freezing Field is going to have a better chance to damage enemies. I don't know what the average DPS is on Freezing Field just yet, but it surely has gone up as a result of this. The movement speed slows also increased. So the explosions will slow you by 40% instead of 30. So buff to Freezing Field, cooldown is reduced a little bit too, which is kind of nice. I almost wonder, I don't know, the skill is like almost so good just for like 1 point. 2 points is kind of a lot because the mana cost goes up to 400. But if you just get like 1 point in this and the cooldown's 90 at all levels and it slows by 40%, like that's pretty powerful slow impact on the team fight. I don't know. Freezing Field's getting better, I gotta say. Death Prophet, Spirit Siphon, Death Prophet needed a nerf. I saw this one on Twitter. Exorcism now deals 50% to buildings. Keep in mind that the previous patch, when they changed the damage types, they accidentally or intentionally made Exorcism do double damage to buildings, meaning that Death Prophet went very easily to being able to solo towers, which kind of made Death Prophet a viable hero in literally all positions in the game due to the fact that Spirit Siphon was already really effective, but also on top of the fact that Exorcism was just so godly at killing towers in Roshan. So it's being reverted completely, which means Death Prophet is probably going to be in the dumpster, I would imagine. Like half, like this is just like, if this was like a normal patch where it's like, oh, this is how we're nerfing Death Prophet, Exorcism does 50% less to buildings, you'd be like, that is the strongest nerf I've ever seen in my whole fucking life. But the reality is that I think they accidentally buffed it that much or something, and it just got too powerful. It still is good against heroes, which is fine, but 50% less against buildings is a very significant nerf. How does she not just go to the dumpster after knowing this? I mean, there are still values to the hero, but I think as a support, she's going to be in the dumpster in comparison to where she was before. As a core, she's probably still viable, but it's going to be more dependent on what item she has now than before. Hi, Tango, go sit down. Hello, I love you too. Hello. Hi. Trying to shake my hand. Shard Fear duration decreases well. This is one of the things that Death Prophet would eventually buy as a support to fear people using Spirit Siphon. Hey. No. Hey. Stop. No. She's growling at the other dog because the other dog also wants attention. So I will pet them both. This is why God gave me 2 hands. Base health drain per second reduced by 6. That means that for 6 seconds, it's going to deal 6 times 6, 36 less damage at level 1 at Spirit Siphon. So it does 36 damage, and whatever damage you deal is how much you get healed. Is that true? Yes. That damage, so yeah, 36 less damage with level 1 Spirit Siphon. It still will do 1% of your max HP as damage, but if you have 600 HP, which is around level 1 HP, that's 6 times 6. So basically before Spirit Siphon was doing about 75 damage, 80 damage, or like 72 to like 80 damage, basically, depending on people's health bars, and healing that back for Death Prophets like a strong brain sap. Now it's going to do less. It's going to do more like 50 damage at level 1. So it's a pretty shit level 1 skill now, I would say. Significant nerf to the damage. Really significant nerf at level 1. As the game goes on and you get more skill points into it, obviously the damage goes up a little bit, but mostly Spirit Siphon is good because of the percentage max HP as damage. It's still like incredibly good as a damage source as people's HP increase and as you get more levels into it, because the percentage-based damage goes up. But mainly, I guess at level 2 is pretty good because it's 2.5% instead of 1, so it goes up by 2.5 times of damage. But level 1 Spirit Siphon sucks. It's bad. It's straight up bad. Not a good skill. You'd almost always be better, I feel like, to get Crypt Swarm, because that's a 36-second cooldown. That shit's ancient. So you're doing like a 60 damage suck every 36 seconds. That ain't good. So Spirit Siphon pretty in the dumpster. That's going to make support Death Prophet worse, without a doubt. Exorcism doing half damage, but I just don't see how Death Prophet support isn't dead, personally. Well, after you get to like level 3, it's fine, right? But level 1, level 2 is definitely weaker than it was. Disruptor, mana cost decreased for Thunderstrike. By 5 at level 1 and 20 at level 4, so Slack's gonna be happy with this one. So you can spam Thunderstrike more. Most people don't max this ability out. Maybe there's some validity in playing like Disruptor Core, but probably not. It's probably bad. I haven't tried that in a long time. Probably for good reason. I want to go look at his talents quick. Thunderstrike damage at 10. Like, you could hypothetically... This could be like an Ogre-like situation, right? Where everyone's like, oh, max Ignite. Get the Ignite talent at 10 and just do a shitload of damage. Because if the mana cost goes down to 140, it's definitely more spammable, right? So it does 140 times 4, so it's a 440 damage nuke for 140 mana. That's really efficient. If you add another 30 damage, it's doing 130 times 4. 140 times 4. So we're adding 30 times 4, 120. So it's like a 560 damage nuke on a 10-second cooldown, a 9-second cooldown. That's pretty freaking good. I can't help but think that there's some core viability there by just putting Thunderstrike on your opponents. God, I forgot about the shard. They changed it. You have to put it on enemies. You can't put it on allies. But it does buff your allies. And the interval time is 2. So if you're fighting somebody, 75% of the time, you've got a 25% movement speed and 50 attack speed. I feel like Disruptor Core has got to be a thing, genuinely. Lowering the mana cost by 20 is a really big fucking deal because his mana needs are not really that high. So, like, this will help for support Disruptor, but like, if you try to make core Disruptor work, as weird as it is, I think there's more viability here. Because you're going to get all... If you buy Shard, you have all this movement speed and attack speed, which helps make you more of a core. I think you could get a buy with it, maybe. Anyways. Guys, if Underlord is truly bugged and you get free MMR from it, I do not condone abusing bugs to gain MMR. Get that shit out of here. You don't want to be on the receiving end. Don't do it to somebody else. What's wrong with you? Dragonite Shard, Fireball damage per second reduced by 5, so just a tiny baby damage decrease to make DK a little bit weaker. Earthshaker Fissure mana cost is going to be reduced later on, so a little bit easier to spam, or at least sustain without mana. Major mana regen. Ember Sleight of Fist damage is reduced early on, so this is going to make Ember a little bit weaker as a harasser. Over the course of the laning stage, this damage adds up, especially when minus armor comes into account. They did buff it up a lot in the previous patch, so it getting nerfed I think is super reasonable. Enchantress gets put in the dumpster. Oops, this is blocked, sorry, by me. Can now only dominate creeps up to level 4, 5, 6. This means you can't walk into the jungle and take a centaur, a dark troll, a wildkin, none of that shit. You need level 2 enchant to get a centaur or a clapper creep, the red one, or a wildkin. You need level 3 enchant to get dark troll summoner. I guess they had to do this. There's basically two lines of thought, basically, right? Like, the problem with Enchantress is the creeps that you get are really strong, obviously, but if you get a dark troll summoner, it's busted, because then you just go and like summon multiple rounds of skeletons and you just backdoor a tower. People did it right when the patch came out and it was disgustingly broken. Like, it was way too good. So they, number one, they nerfed the dark troll summoner, but they also made it so you can't just like enchant a dark troll and then do this early in the game, which is fair. Usually it would take like level 2 enchant before people started doing it, because then the duration of the creep would be enough that you could like easily get 2 rounds of summons in. Whereas at right now you only have 30 seconds, so it's not really enough to backdoor or kill a tower. 60 seconds is better. But now you need level 3 enchant to do this. So I guess it's not that bad in terms of cheesing towers. It's only delayed it by like 2 levels. And at level 5, when you're level 5 on Enchantress, people are going to have the levels to better deal with it, which I think is fair and balanced, certainly, for the skill. But in terms of laning, this is going to be a lot weaker for Enchantress. You still have lane potential, though, because Impetus is still a really good lane ability. And some Enchantresses even skip enchant in the laning stage. They'll rely more on their right clicks and their heals to help win laning stages. So I don't think it's the end of the world for Enchantresses, but there's certainly some like cheesy abuse stuff that's going to be worse. What does it mean dominate creeps up to level? If you didn't know, all neutral creeps have a level on them. This is like an old Warcraft 3 thing that is a relic of that, but all creeps used to have levels basically, and the level they were changed how much experience they gave you typically. And there were some abilities that would only work on certain level creeps. So if you had an ability that could kill any creep, well, it could only kill creeps that were so powerful, right? Because if there's some like god creep that comes along, you can't just devour it. That'd be unfair, right? So there were limitations based on how strong of a creep your spell could affect. Mostly this affects Chen. It used to affect Enigma as well. You could only use demonic conversion on creeps of a certain level, I believe. Maybe it was just you could never do it on the big ones. I can't remember. Probably same concept though. But there was things like that. So yeah, you can't dominate any creep. Basically any of the biggest creeps in the camps you cannot dominate. You can usually 4 is basically the medium-sized creeps or below. So like the tomato or the potato of the Hellbear Clapper and the Hellbear Smasher. Hellbear Smasher or Hellbear whatever, the yellow one. That one is level 4. The red one is level 5. Big centaurs are 5. The little ones are probably like 2. This is important if you're playing Doom as well. Doom, it matters. Now it matters for Enchantress. It mattered for Chen a couple patches ago. Chen and Enchantress used to be able to take any creep they wanted, but now it's gone from Enchantress as well. So the only item that should be able to do it fine is Helm of the Dominator. Still affects Enigma. Yeah, you can't take the big ones. I just mean I couldn't remember if there was a moment where it could only take tiny creeps on early demonic conversion and then go to medium creeps and then go, it would stop there. But yeah, you obviously can't use it on big ones, but I can't remember if there was a moment where you could only take the smallest of creeps. Clinks. Yeah, there was a time where, well, that was when Death Pact was a basic skill, not an ultimate. They changed that. But you're right, that was another example. Alright, Huskar, Berserker's Blood. Strength as max health regen bonus decreased by a little bit. So this means your regen in late game situations based on your strength is going to be a little bit weaker. Right now, I think when you have an armlet on in the late game with your regen talents, you basically just take no, your HP stays the same. You take like no damage. So this is a little decrease to Huskar, which could hurt his regen. Come here, Tango. Keeper of the Light base movement speed is reduced by 10, which is good. That's going to hurt Caudal Core, certainly, because you won't be quite as fast when you use your ultimate. The mana restored, obviously for support as well, same thing. At all stages of the game, all Caudals are hurt, right? You're slower. But Chakra Magic mana restored is a little bit nerfed early. It is still pretty good later. Tango, why don't you go sit down over there? Come on. Go sit down on camera, please. Please, God. And then Blinding Light knockback duration reduced a little bit, so it's going to be a little bit less effective as a knockback. This means that you will be knocked back faster. So when you cast it, someone's going to be pushed away more rapidly, which in some ways is good. If you're using it last second, it's this is better for the core, I would argue, because it's basically a stun, and it's not a stun because you can still attack and cast spells during the knockback, but in terms of you not being able to move the direction you want to, this is a nerf to the skill. But in terms of you using it at the last possible second to get some AoE ability away from your allies, such as like Inkswell, it's a tiny buff there, but largely this is going to be a nerf to the hero. Okay. Did I skip Enigma? Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about Enigma and I just skipped it. Enigma Eidolon magic resistance increased by 10%. The bounty decreased, and the experience that they give you is also, when killed, is also decreased. So laning Enigma is going to be even better now. Some people were picking it, but to see the magic resistance go up and the bounty to go down a little bit and the experience to go down, that's really nice for Enigma. Eidolons are 10 experience. How much is a creep? I think range creeps back in the day when they were a lot, where they were like 90, but I think they're like 60 now or something. I think melee creeps are like 30 or 40 or something. So if you kill the Eidolons, you'll get your experience back. I think that's about right. I'm estimating on the creeps. I can't remember exactly. White buff Enigma. That one's a little bit of a mystery to me, to be honest. But this is the primary reason that playing Enigma is scary, because often you end up feeding golden experience with your Eidolons. But eject means that I will turn off the stream when I'm done with the stream. When I'm done talking about the patch, because I got shit to do and I already worked all day. Okay. Lycan, base attack speed increased by 10, so a little bit more physical damage. His agility gains are really bad, by the way, so this is nice. Summoned Wolf Shard, Lane Wolf, increased damage. So it was better to compare to a previous. Oh no, they basically they're both buffed. So Wolf damage is gonna be slightly better. It got nerfed in the last patch because it got increased too much, but now Lycan is apparently bad and nobody picks him, so he's getting a little baby buff. Medusa very strong right now, one of the best carries. A little nerf to Split Shot. Keep in mind that she has a talent at 15 that increases the damage from Split Shot by like 12, so it puts you up to like 92. Now it's going to be 5 less, so it'll be 87. Still very high, but just a little bit weaker. This doesn't matter. I mean, it matters for farming, certainly. It's straight up 5% less at all levels, so... But this is only a couple points of damage early game. As the game continues into the ultra late game, you know, we're talking like 20, 25 damage less than an AoE with every attack, so it's significant, certainly.
Hooray!
Thank you for the sub, Buttered Loaf 2. That's quite the name. Stone Gaze mana cost increased by 50 as well, so if you do get bursted or mana drain, it's going to be harder for you to pop a wand while taking damage to cast your ultimate. So a little nerf to Medusa if she gets gone on first, because a lower chance that she'll have enough mana. I guess if you have a 10 stick, you'll have enough. If you have a 20 stick, you'll probably have enough. But, you know, if they're hitting you with enough damage, maybe it's hard. Plus mini stunts, you never know. Necrophos gets nerfed a little bit. His Reaper Scythe permanent regen is definitely nerfed. The big one is the third one. It's a big decrease. 9 to 6 at level 3. It's going to mean that you don't just get to like mega stack regen all game. It's still very good. It's still like free regen, but it's just not going to be nearly as much. Keep in mind the mana regen is actually the same though. So they didn't touch the mana regen, which makes sense. The mana regen aspect of it was definitely the weaker of the two. The HP regen was really important. So less good for becoming ultra tanky. And the Deathseeker, arguably one of the best shards in the game, in the sense that it amplifies your ultimate and also gave you a second death pulse. That gets nerfed, cooldown reduced, mana cost increased. This is necessary. I think Deathseeker was a really, really good. Death pulse mana cost is 190. Deathseeker was 100. Like, that seems a little wild, but yeah, nerf to that. And then Death Pulse heal is reduced by 5 at all levels, so just tiny baby nerf to Death Pulse. But hey, you still got the mana regen from Reaper Scythe, so you'll be fine.
Hooray!
I think ultimately these are like very small nerfs. The Reaper Scythe one is going to matter a lot in pubs because you get a lot of Reaper Scythe kills. In pro games, it'll probably matter a little bit less because teams are better at bursting somebody that's slow. In pubs, coordination isn't quite there, so all this extra regen was probably a terror for the hero. So I think this is ultimately fine. The heal reduction for Death Pulse matters a little bit because keep in mind when you use your second skill, you get like, I can't remember the exact number, 40, 50, oh, 75 at max. Okay, 75 restoration amplification. So this 5 less Death Pulse heal means that it now heals you like 8.75 less HP when you use that. So huge reduction there, right? Hey, don't bark in here. Bad timing. Nyx Assassin mana cost on Impale is going down, so little mana buffs on a couple supports that are unused right now, because a lot of mana regen items have been nerfed over the last 6 months to a year. So Impale is, it's going to have a bigger radius, which is a big deal. It means it's going to be easier to land your stun in an AoE, and the mana cost has gone down. Most people don't max Impale right away, maybe like lower skill players. Pros usually get like 2 to 3 points, and then they max out Spike Carapace because Spike Carapace is a little bit more valuable. And the Impale levels are pretty strong, even with low amounts of them. But with the mana cost barely scaling right now, it's going to make it look... You could argue that playing Nyx as a core is a little bit more appealing because you can spam Impale more, but maybe that's overkill. It's good for all Nyxes, but support Nyxes are more common. I don't see them in pro games at all though right now. Omniite Heavenly Grace mana cost is increased by a pretty significant amount, 15 more at level 1. So a little bit way less spammy in lane. Not that it's a very low cooldown, but yeah, more mana needs to Omniite are, I think, fine and valid. The hero doesn't have that many expenses. Are you okay? Tango, if chewing the bone hurts your teeth, maybe you don't do it. You okay? She chews on these bones, and I think she chips her teeth, and that, unfortunately, hopefully she's okay. All right, she's fine. Going back to it. Phoenix, Icarus dive damage per second is buffed, 5 to all levels. Skill's basically never used for damage, understandably. It's not very good for that. But yeah, a little buff to Phoenix, laning wise. I don't think, does anybody ever use dive offensively ever in the history of the hero? Basically, never these days. I feel like I only ever see dive to like get closer to cast spells or... Well, thank you for the raid, BSJ. Appreciate it. Thank you. Awaken. But yeah, you're not going to see anybody like skilling this to do damage because every skill point only gives you like 20 damage. But hey, at least level 1 is 50% more damage than it used to do. That part's pretty sick. Primal Beast, going to get some nerfs. Onslaught now is a sound audible through Fog of War. So if he's planning to charge you, you will hear it coming, similar to jumping on Monkey King or Hoodwink's ultimate. So you can't just use it to initiate and surprise people without them knowing that it's coming now, which is valid. Because the range is so high, 2,000 distance, that it basically makes the hero incredible at initiating, even without like items or levels. Like if you just have 1 point in Onslaught, it is not difficult to initiate. Now that opponents know that you're going to come, now you can at least like, you have to worry about it not hitting. But if you're doing it from trees and they don't see you coming, it's pretty darn easy to land the spell on people. So adding a sound I think is super valid and fair. Uproar. This skill's also kind of busted. If you take any damage, you just slow people for like 6 seconds or some shit. Where's the duration? 7 seconds? God. The attack damage per stack is decreased, so it's way worse at level 1, which is fair. At level 1, if you got 5 stacks, you did 75 fucking damage. 75 fucking damage. It's insane. It's like a DD for 7 seconds that also slows them by 50% for 7 seconds. It was broken. Obviously, they have to attack you first. But how are you supposed to not fucking attack somebody ever in the lane? Like, shit was crazy. Anyways, now it's going to do 50 damage if you get 5 stacks. It's going to slow at 8% instead. So that's 40% slow instead of 50. And the damage threshold is also increased. That means the amount of damage I believe that you have to take for you to get a proc. So this is really, really big. If I'm a Crystal Maiden that hits somebody for 45 damage, I cannot proc this motherfucker's Uproar. Thank the fucking Lord. If I'm focus firing this asshole and I'm only hitting him for 45 damage, he does not get Uproar procs. If I'm doing a damage over time spell and it does not do over 50 damage per tick, this fucker does not get Uproar ticks. This is wonderful. In the laning stage, this is where it was the most broken. It's like if I attack this asshole at all, he gets Uproar stacks, and then he uses it to slow and damage and deny you, which basically means you just can't fucking attack him, which undermines the entire purpose of Dota, that right-clicking is a very important component of playing Dota and laning. So, yes, if he damage blocks, I assume, or if he has more armor, I assume this also will not proc Uproar ticks. Same thing. But yes, I am very pleased about the nerfs to Uproar here. This skill, Trample is very good as well, but I think Uproar was the most obnoxious one. Like, if somebody tramples you, at least you can like stun him and run away, or root him and run away so he can't trample you. Generally, that happens. Still did an insane amount of damage. But Uproar is like, oh, I just can't attack this guy in the laning stage. Like, what the fuck? That doesn't make sense. Just can't attack him at all? Come on. Anyways, Trample now, base damage is reduced. That's the damage that it does regardless of your base damage. And the attack damage percentage is reduced slightly. So before you do 20 damage plus 40% of your base damage. So if you have 60 damage, it would do 6 times 4, which is 24. So it'd be doing about 44 damage per proc. Now it does 12 plus 35. Let's make this easy on myself instead of doing 35%. Well, 10% of 60 is 6. Half of that is 3. So we'll take 3 off. So it does 21 damage plus 12 now. So it is 33 damage per trample tick instead of 44. What did I say? 33? 33. Okay, so it does 25% less damage at level 1 than it did before. That's a big difference. It means you absolutely can't kill a creep wave with it, which is great. And it is still going to be effective, but definitely less effective. Uproar is going to be less effective. I think this is a great place to start. These are the 2 most bullshit abilities. I think Onslaught getting the nerf that it got was fair. Get rid of the sound, and then they buffed Rock Throw because nobody buys it, because everything else about the hero is incredible, and you don't need Rock Throw. But watch out for those rocks. 25-second cooldown. I don't know about that one. There's just so much other shit to do that's more important. You onslaught in and you use your ulti on a guy. That's rock throwing first. Like maybe it's better to rock throw now because onslaught makes a noise, but because you can toss this and then channel onslaught. They hear you coming, but it's too late. You've now stunned them for 3 seconds and then you ulti them. That sounds pretty powerful. It's just going to cost more money to get that value from the hero now. Anyways, level 20 talent, trample attack damage percentage bonus is also reduced. So the maximum attack damage that you can get from this skill is just straight up 10% worse. I feel like most people got that talent. Pudge getting a buff, dismember damage per second rescaled. So it does 20 more damage at level 1, same at late game. This is going to make Pudge pretty decently stronger later. More lifesteal from creeps. Number 1. Keep in mind that his strength gain got nerfed a lot. I'm surprised he didn't get buffed more than this, but maybe next patch is when it'll happen. Because this is, you know, you're like I said, you're going to do 20 times 6 more damage to creeps when you ulti them. So that's more heal. Do you heal the same? You do. So that's pretty good. So when you ulti creeps, you're getting 120 extra HP that you did before. If you ulti heroes, you're getting 60 more. After reductions, you're going to get like 45 heal from it. But, you know, better chance to get kills. The hero's still kind of crap, though, because it takes a lot of skill points to offset rot damage. And then that ends up leaving you lacking a little bit in other places. But maybe I get too many flesh heap levels. Maybe you should just get like 1, maybe 2. 1 and a cloak is probably enough in a lot of cases. Pugna is another hero of the patch. Huge win rates in pubs and is played often, very often in pro games, often first picked because it can be flexed, but it's just a really solidified strong 4 because Netherward is so good. Lowers enemy spell damage by 25%, but they are going to reduce the radius by 200. 1600 was pretty stupid big. This means now that you can fight away from it a little bit easier. Decrypt talent is reduced. That's at 20, not that big of a deal. Support Pugnas don't often hit level 20, I would argue. Core Pugnas will sometimes. I think it's common to get that talent. The other one, I believe, is the heal from your ultimate. So you'll heal 20% faster, I believe. Either HP that you're stealing from your opponent or mana, or nuking or healing your allies. You'll heal 20% better. I don't know if that means you probably don't take more damage. You just get more heal per suck, basically. And then also nerfing Decrep, worse at level 1, slightly worse at level 4. So people usually get like 2 points in Nether Blast when they play support Pugna. They max Netherward first and they max Decrep second. I don't think this is going to really hurt Pugna that badly. Decrep cast range certainly will. That part's kind of big because you won't be able to necessarily cast it from as long a range, but when you get Aether Lens or whatever, then that's fine anyway. So I think this is probably not going to make a fucking difference. The Netherward one will make an impact in pro games. I'm sure that'll lower his win rate by like 1% or something, because just the lower radius is going to mean that you do a little bit less damage prevention on your teammates. The Decrep one probably isn't going to matter very often, and Decrep cast range one probably not going to matter that much, although there are going to be some cases where you want to cast it to save an ally where the cast range could matter, I guess. So maybe these 3 are impactful. They'll lower his win rate by just a little bit, but probably not enough to take him out of the meta. He will still be played. He just might become less of an every game pick, is my guess. Okay, Sand King DPS from Sandstorm is buffed at level 1. Same at level 2, worse at level 3, worse at level 4. So a little bit weaker as a counter push ability. The mana cost has gone up too, so that's going to cost him a bit in the lane. Still a really solid skill, obviously, but Sand King's mana is definitely precious in the early game. This could lead to less Burrow Strike capabilities, maybe less epicenters. The Ag Shard has been reduced in damage. Still a very good ultimate, or a very good shard, but I mean, if you think about how much Spell Amp it did before, it used to be like probably 17% Spell Amp. Now it's half that. So now it's only basically like a 9% Spell Amp to your epicenter shard. So that's going to significantly impact the effectiveness of that. Will people still buy it? Probably much less, I would imagine. You're still going to get an extra epi proc when you jump in, and it still does movement slow and attack speed slow. I feel like people will still buy it. They just won't buy it every game now, is all. And then level 10 talent, Sandstorm damage per second is nerfed. The other one is Caustic Finale slow. Nobody wants that. They will still probably get Sandstorm DPS, but keep in mind the overall damage decrease is pretty significant. This is 115 versus now 100. So it's gone down by like 15% damage. So his ability to burst between the epicenter shard and the Sandstorm damage nerfs are definitely going to go down. He's going to get way less solo kills, so he'll have to coordinate more with allies. That'll be significant. And the Sandstorm radius also reduced. That 15 talent, everybody gets that one as well. Caustic Finale damage, nobody cares, I feel like. It's good if people are in creep waves, but other than that, not very good. And nobody really buys Ags on Sand King, so applying Caustic Finale to opponents is not really that common. It can be a good talent to like apply Caustic Finale to people. The slow is not that bad, 25%. Getting it up to 37 is pretty significant, because against a non-BK beat hero, 37% reapplying slow, that's really powerful. I've bought it before against like mega tanky. I mean, it's been, or skilled it before. It can be okay against like mega tanky heroes, because then they're stuck in your Sandstorm longer, typically. For lower HP heroes, it's usually better just to go with the raw damage, because you have a better chance to kill them. But I mean, maybe there's some value in the slow, but I don't really see Sand Kings buying Ags. Generally, it's pretty expensive as an item, so I don't know. I assume people are still going to go for Sandstorm talents, without a doubt. And the 25 talent also got nerfed, the slow and blind one. That one was also very, very good, apparently. Okay, Slarked mana cost for Dark Pact is decreased by 10. The damage early goes up, so it does 90 at level 1. So a little bit better to actually use this in the laning stage if you want to. You're only taking 30% of the damage, keep that in mind. So this actually means you take more damage from Dark Pact now, but yeah, you take more damage from it now. You take 30 damage instead of like 25. So a little bit more damage taken, but more damage dealt. I think that's fine. Mana cost going down is huge. It's going to be a lot easier to farm with it. With your mana needs, whatever they are. But as a whole, Slark just doesn't get played. Spectre, one of the lowest win rate heroes right now. Certainly for carries, he's the lowest win rate. His base HP regen, that got increased. He's basically, think of him this way. He's fucking slow. He has terrible stat gain. His mana cost on Dagger is like 130 to 160. It doesn't even do that much damage. It does like 50, or it does like 60 to 200 damage or some shit. Or 60 to 240, what is it? 75 to 240. The damage is pretty atrocious on the skill, and it costs 160 freaking mana on a hero that has bad int gain. The hero is basically in the dumpster. His base agi has gotten increased by 2, and the radius threshold for dispersion is going to be increased. That means before, the maximum damage dispersion would do was out to 800, and it would do the least damage there. Or sorry, 700. Now it's up to 800, and now people that are 400 units from you are going to take more from dispersion. So if you stay closer to opponents, basically it's easier to reflect damage done from dispersion to your enemies than it was before. Before, it was a little bit easier. You could get a little bit of separation between the heroes, but it's like basically he's still going to be the same fucking hero, but his laning is going to be a little bit better, because over 60 seconds he's going to regain 30 HP more than he would have before, and he's got 2 more damage, slightly more armor, slightly more attack speed. So he'll be better at last hitting, he'll be better at dispersion reflection, but buffs to laning stage basically and early game, and buffs to late game with dispersion, I would argue. This dispersion in mid game, potentially could be an impact, but certainly this is more of a late game buff when you are talking about bigger amounts of damage and bigger amounts of HP to reflect. Storm Spirit getting nerfed. Base armor reduced by 1. Storm is picked in all regions. It's very popular. People basically buy like 3 to 4 null talismans on the hero, eventually replacing their boots. They buy BKB rush usually, and they get AC or eggs, and then they use it to initiate for their teammates. And then they jump around all over the place doing shitloads of damage. It ends up running out of mana eventually. You can compensate that with like a IO or a Coddle typically. But yeah, nerf to the mana regen talent is nice because keep in mind that he basically abuses mana from allies sometimes. Coddle, for example, or IO. He abuses the low mana cost from all of his null talismans at double at the 15-minute mark or 25-minute mark. And then a little bit of mana regen on top of that is going to put him in a semi-healthy place. So a reduction to this mana regen talent could upset his balance and make the playstyle that is currently popular a little bit weaker, which is probably a good thing because it's kind of cheesy and weird. Base armor reduced by 1 is kind of big though. What is that? What's going on? Why is that artifact behind her? What am I seeing? I don't know why there's that little like rectangle below her. I'm very confused. What? What if I block this briefly? Is that, what am I, is there something, is it just like an optical illusion? Is that a fucking optical illusion? I don't know what's going on. Anyways. Scroll bar? It's the fucking scroll bar. Oh my god. Incredible. Alright, now we know. And overload damage decreased by 10. Guys, I'm gonna fucking get to Underlord. Holy shit, I get it. There's something cool. I'm not just gonna skip the whole fucking patch notes to jump to Underlord. Like, come on. Relax. We're getting there, okay? We're almost done. As we just found out, there's a scroll bar over here, and this shows how far along we are to the patch. We're 80% done. You guys are only gonna have to wait like 2 more minutes tops. Maybe 30 minutes, depending on how long I talk, and then we will get to Underlord, and I will test it, okay? It will be patched before I get there. I'm not going to close my Dota. Guess what? We're going to be completely fine. All right, anyways, let's go. Sven, let's go all the way to Underlord. There he is. There he is. It's just not there. Okay. We'll finish. We'll open him up. We'll look at it, okay? We'll get there. Sven just got played today by Liquid. They lost. Movement speed bonus for Warcry is buffed. 10 to 22%, buffed by 2 at all levels. Shard passive armor increased from 5 to 7. The Shard, I believe, makes Warcry better. Oh, that's right. Undispelled one passively grants armor to all allies. That shit's really fucking decent. Legitimately really fucking decent. Obviously, Sven is a carry, and typically you don't care as much about armor. But fuck yeah, dude. Pick Sven against some like minus armor lineups. Just by being alive, Sven has 7 armor. You'd be spending a little bit over on Warcry, but this is legitimately really good. Number 1. All right, if you buy plate mail, it's 1,400 gold. You give yourself 10 armor. You can spend 1,400 gold to give yourself 7 armor now. Almost as good as 10. Pretty close. 70% of the value, and it's on a fucking AoE. 7 AoE armor is fucking bonkers. This is legitimately really good, in my opinion. Now, obviously, Sven, like I said, generally wins games by fucking murdering people really quickly, but Sven has a major weakness, and it's actually armor, typically. If he's got Warcry going, he's pretty happy. He's got 15 extra armor, but you usually don't buy a lot of armor items on this hero because of the fact that you need to keep buying damage items. But if you can slip a little shard in there while you're trying to go high ground with your team against some like Shadow Fiend or Slardar or whatever else, or if you get chain stunned before you can cast Warcry and you die to physical damage, I could see this being kind of cool. 7 AoE armor, that shit's really fucking valuable for the cost. Maybe it's not the hero you want to buy it on, but I could see this being valuable in some cases. And Shard doesn't take a slot. That's also a good point. You're skipping the fact that you have to buy the slot. I could easily see like playing Sven getting Shard from Roshan as well and being like, hell yeah, guys. Everybody benefits. 7 armor around Sven. That seems potentially like, think of like a TA and you buy Shard for your teammates, and then you use Warcry and they all get they go from 7 armor to 22. against an ET, this is incredibly good. Like, incredibly good against an ET for you and your teammates. This just seems really, really legitimately good to me. All right, that's Sven. Stormhammer stun duration rescaled. A little bit better at level 1. Liquid wish they had this earlier today. Mana cost for Stormhammers also decreased late game. So, little baby buffs to the hero. The Warcry difference, if you don't buy Shard, these are not really that different. I guess the Stormhammer stun duration one is pretty decent. Certainly buffs to support Sven if you want to play that. But yeah, I think that's cool. TA refraction bonus damage reduced, which is kind of funny. I mean, TA does still get played, but it's a little bit here and there. I guess it got played today in the C region. I think Boom played it. No, it was the other team. Was it? I don't remember who played Boom. Don't remember. They did kind of okay, but Boom stomped. Anyways, refraction nerf down to 85 damage. Still the same early game, but later on it's going to be a little bit weaker for like clearing ancients and stuff like that. Support Sven has actually seen some play at times, guys. I promise you. And with the shard existing, it's going to be even better now. But yeah, it has been played before. It sounds real weird, and it sounds like it shouldn't be viable, but it actually was, unfortunately, kind of viable. Is it going to be viable now? Probably not, because he doesn't really have an initiation until he buys Blink, and I feel like if he doesn't provide team fight and he doesn't provide... other than the armor that he gives, there's just probably better heroes. But hey, there was a period of time where support Sven legitimately was popular. It was kind of weird. Timber saw Whirling Death stat loss percentage decrease by 2, so it's going to be a little bit weaker against mainly strength heroes. They will have a... I mean, it's kind of a big deal. 2%. If I have 100 strength and I lose 2% of it, that's 40 HP. So Whirling Death will have a slightly lower chance of killing you if you're a strength hero. Mostly for late game, but certainly it could matter in the early game too. It could be enough for the numbers round where you lose an extra strength versus not, which is an extra 20 HP. So I don't know how often that's going to be. Probably not very often, but stat loss duration is also decreased at all levels, so a little bit weaker to stack it multiple times. My dog can kiss me whenever I want. Okay. Why is Sven support weird? Well, your second skill is useless from a support perspective because it gives you cleave damage when you attack. That's usually not needed at all, and you're usually not skilling it for a long time. And your damage is based on how many items you have typically, and supports have less items. So that's why support Sven is less good. If you're playing like for Sven, okay, maybe it's more viable or whatever because then you can spend some time farming or something, but your ultimate is also a damage dealing ultimate. It increases your damage based on your items. So your ultimate isn't just something that you can get levels to cast and be effective. You have to like actually have some items. So like his second skill is not good from a support's perspective. His ultimate is basically not good from a support perspective. You're basically just a stun and a war cry. These two skills are like these skills are great support skills. By all means, they fit totally. But other than that, the hero doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But if his base stats are really solid, then, you know, like DP in the previous patch, you can kind of just play him support and it doesn't matter because you're strong anyways. Okay, what do we got next? Tinker, base strength increased by 1, so 20 more HP for this homie. And lower mana cost on lasers, so you can cycle through your abilities a bit better. I know Tinker is very feared. I guess Tinker is the next Techies, huh? Techies got reworked, maybe Tinker. It's like one of those heroes that players just like fucking hate. But he's going to be a little better now. Tiny Tree Grab. Oh, Tiny getting the nerf. Thank God. 15% less damage against towers. Mega overdue. The amount of tower damage he does is just incredibly insane. So now he's going to do 85% more damage instead of double his damage. Which is why double damage was so insane. Because double damage would double your damage, more or less. Mostly double your damage, because most of your damage was base damage. And then that damage would be doubled by Tree Grab. But now that damage is only going to be doubled by 85%. So a little bit better. Grow tree attack damage multiplier is going to be reduced. So that is, I believe, the base damage is 20. So this means that it's going to do like a little bit less damage, right? I believe that's what this is. Because it does 20 base damage. And that would be increased by the 40%. So that is 8 damage. Now it's only going to be 4 damage. So it's like 4 less damage from his attack when he hits level 6. And then in the late game, it's really not that much of a difference, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's how it works. Tree Grab increases the damage bonus from Grow, not from Tree Grab. Is this true? I'm confused by it. Tree bonus, damage multiplier bonus. Tree bonus, damage multiplier. I'm confused on this. The words are so general, it's like hard to figure it out. To be clear, what if I go to Dota 2 wiki and then take a look at Tiny and then read the details, and then hopefully that tells me exactly what the fuck this means. Oh my god, the ads are powerful on this website. Very powerful advertisements. Oh my god, there's a lot of shit on Toss. It's Tree Throws, a lot of shit on that. Tree Volley, Grow. Okay, so yeah, when Tree Grab is used, this does... the damage increases with this. So the bonus damage is 30, but that used to be amped by... Okay, so that they do this so that without a tree, you still do more damage with Grow, but with the tree, you do even more damage. So you're correct, it does affect the Grow damage. So 30 damage used to be increased by 40% with a tree. So that would be 3 times 4, so 12. So it'd do 42 damage with a tree. Now it's only going to do 20% of that, so it's only going to do 6. So basically you get 6 less damage with level 1 Grow when you have a tree grabbed. And in the late game it's 10, like let's say like level 18, you have 10% less, so you have 11 less damage. So basically less damage from trees, same damage without trees. The building damage you do is less. Slow now also applies to tree volley damage. Okay, so that's a buff to tiny ags. Straight up a buff. Because you usually apply a slow by throwing a tree at somebody. What is the slow? Well, I have the perfect website open for that. Slow is 20% movement and attack for 2.5 seconds. So now you don't necessarily have to buy ags to make, Echo Saber to make Tree Throw good. I believe I heard somebody say that it got removed with Echo Saber, but it got back into the game for whatever reason. I don't know how, if it was intentional or not, probably a bug. But I believe you get Echo Saber procs on Tiny Ags. Anyways, the throws are also going to apply slow of 20% now. So it will be better to buy Ags on Tiny now. Maybe a consolation prize. But let's look at the rest. But so far, these nerfs are really not that significant. They're really not. These 2 nerfs are not significant. Level 15 talent from plus 40% Grow bonus damage with tree. Oh, they put it at the 20 talent. So that used to do up to like 50 damage or something like that. At level 3 ulti. Anyways, it's at level 20 now. So now it's going to give you 40% of 110. So it's like 44 damage. So it's a 44 damage talent with tree basically. And they put status resistance at 15 now, 10% status resistance. I assume 10% status resistance is not insignificant, but it's pretty small. I can't help but assume that people would go avalanche damage. Keep in mind that avalanche gets amplified when somebody's tossed in the air. Hard times coming. 2 times damage. So maybe it's pretty small. 80 avalanche damage doubled is only 160. So if you do an Avatos combo, you're not really increasing your damage combo by that much. So maybe status resistance is valuable here. But it's only 10. Anyways, that's a nerf to Tiny for sure. Because these kind of nerfs usually actually hurt heroes a lot. Because The talents that basically they get every time is they always get the 40% grow at 15, which increases your damage by a not insignificant amount. It's like a 30 damage bonus at level 15, and a 44 damage at 20, or at 18, let's say at level 3 ult. But now you're still probably going to get the same talents, but they're just straight worse, right? You get the damage one much later at 20, so that means your farm speed between level 15 and level 20 is going to be significantly less. Like a markedly less, like 10% less damage than you used to do overall. And then once you hit level 20 and you have both talents, you're just straight up worse anyways because you have 5% less status resistance. So that part is going to be a nerf to the hero. His, like if you have a bad game on Tiny and you get to level 15 slowly, is that what I mean to say? Yeah, if you get to level 15 slowly on a bad game with Tiny, you don't have the acceleration of getting that talent like you used to. Now you have to be like, well, I have to continue trying to like farm well and own with less damage than I had in a previous game, a previous normal game. So that part's going to slow Tinies down, I think. They won't accelerate as much at level 15 going towards level 20 in terms of farm. Because right now Tinies just farm too fast and they do too much damage and it all kind of like hurts and is annoying. That is going to affect things less because Tinies won't be as strong at 15, without a doubt. They'll have a little bit of baby status resistance. Maybe they could rely on avalanche combos to do more burst damage when trying to kill heroes, but that's going to be a little bit more in line with Tiny of expectations. And no matter what happens, the bonus damage that you do to towers later is going to be lessened because Tree Grab got nerfed there. But a little bit less damage. Like if we add up these two damage differences, keep in mind this one was like what? At level 1 grow is like 10 damage. Level 2 is 70. I'm going to just do a calculator to make this faster and for sure accurate. 70 times 0.45. So before you would get 31.5 damage bonus from using Tree Grab at level 2 ulti. Now you are getting 30 times that. So 70 times 0.3 is 21. So at level 2 ultimate, you have 10.5 less damage with a tree than you had before. That's number one. At level 15, you have 28 less damage. So now at level 15 on Tiny, you're going to have about 40 less damage right click than you did before. That's a huge fucking deal. Because at level 15 on Tiny, you definitely have Shard by then. This part's a pretty big deal. So legitimately, the power spike from Tiny at level 15 is just significantly worse. At level 6, it's a little bit worse with the tree, but it's not that big of a deal. At level 12 with it, it's quite a bit worse. You have, well, not quite a bit. You have like 10 less damage. So you have 10 less damage from level 12 to level 15. And from level 15 to level 20, you have like 50 less damage than you used to. That part's really, really big. So you are a little bit slower from 12 to 15, and you're way slower from 15 to 20. And once you hit 20, you're only doing like 10 less damage or something like that. 11 less damage than you did before. Still worse against towers. So overall, at the end of the day, Tiny is going to be a lot slower to accelerate. If he's not getting a lot of kills from like level 12 to level 20, then he is not going to farm as fast, period. What's the cleave? 100%. It matters. It's going to farm a little slower. He'll probably still farm fast. He's going to do a lot less single target damage. 40 less is pretty significant. So he won't be able to just like blow people up as much in the mid game. That's certainly going to matter. So yeah, it's going to affect his win rate. We'll probably see Tiny fall off a bit. I assume Medusa will replace him as carry number 1 because Medusa's still really solid, even though her damage got decreased by 5% for split shot, but I don't really think that's like that big of a deal. They increased her ulti mana cost or whatever too, right? But I don't know, maybe he'll still be good, but I assume that heroes like Medusa or other heroes will still be more powerful. Keep in mind that in NA people carry, there's other carries that people pick like TB and stuff like that, but maybe that's just an NA thing. Okay, Troll Warlord, Berserker's Rage, melee form base attack time improved by 0.5. This is the wrong icon in my opinion. This looks like the ranged one. Valve making a huge mistake here. I believe this is the icon when you're in ranged mode, not melee. Huge mistake. But a BAT reduction like this is a big deal because it means you scale better with attack speed. It means your overall DPS when you're in melee mode on Troll will be better. And because he already has a lot of attack speed, this is really powerful, actually. So that's pretty sick. Battle Transfix Troll sometimes not properly getting sight of its target in Fog of War. I don't know what that means, but probably some weird bug. Will this make a big difference on the hero? Maybe. The hero's still abused by like Yules and a lot of common disables, so that's kind of a big issue with the hero. And you can lane pretty well on the hero, but I feel like there's other carries that already lane completely fine, like CK, so why would you pick Troll? Troll's benefit in a lot for a very long time was his benefit of being able to lane well and pressure hard carries. But he just transitioned a lot worse compared to other hard carries. It's like harder to play ultra late game with, pretty much. So I don't know, Troll probably still a little bit in the dumpster, but maybe this will make a difference. Undying Tombstone cast range reduced by 100. I think this is really fair, actually. It's going to make it slightly harder to cliff Tombstones if you're not in good position. Placing Tombstone is still very viable at 500 range, but you just can't. It's basically going to make it a little bit more punishing in terms of your position. If you're out of position, your tomb won't be quite as ideal as you want it to be. I think this is totally fine. And then zombie spawn interval is increased, so that part's going to hurt a lot more. But Tombstone is a very good ability. Nerfing the hero in this way, I think, is probably all right. It's going to matter over the course of, a couple. Getting that second zombie is usually the most important one, because then you've got 2 zombies slowing them. But yeah, still a good ability. Still an occasional pick. This is a hero that basically just nobody gives a shit about right now. Warlock, Chaotic Offering, Golem health is increased, and for Aghanim Scepter, it's also increased a bit. The late game Golem with Ags is very comparable health, actually. It's really not that bad to the original ones. Will this change the hero at all? I mean, 1400 health is kind of a lot. I actually killed a Chaotic Offering Golem recently, and I was surprised how much HP it had. So it going up here looks pretty decent. They have a lot of armor too, 6 to 12 right now. So increasing the raw health is pretty good. It's going to make it harder to kill the Golems. But is Warlock valuable? I mean, the heal's okay. The thing most people complain about is that it's so easy to give regen from your support to your carry that picking a support specifically who can heal is a little bit redundant right now when you could just buy items to heal for them. And while that is true, there are still some other aspects of Warlock that are decent. Shard, I think, is pretty good on him. AoE heal plus movement speed and slow. I think that it gives you the ability to push. I don't think Warlock is terrible, but there's certainly a lot better there's certainly better supports typically. But he is a decent lane winner, so I don't know. Maybe there's a place for him, but I don't think we're there yet. Winter Wyvern duration for Arctic Burn increased by 2. That's a pretty big deal. That's a much bigger window to activate it and be able to apply it. That's pretty powerful. 10 out of 20 seconds you can have this shit up. So half the time you can be Arctic burned and flying right now. That seems quite good to me. Obviously, once you apply it to somebody, you can't reapply it, so it's not like you're slowing somebody for 10 out of 20, but just the fact that you can be flying for 10 out of 20 seems really, really good to me. Like, what a counter against, like, Clockwork or some other heroes like that. Why not just fly up and down cliffs all the time? Really good for support Wyverns as well. Super easy to check cliffs now. Spend the mana. Fly around, check cliffs. If the fight happens, Arctic Burn's still active, that kind of thing. Splinter Blast secondary projectile speed increased. Okay, so once it splits and starts flying Splinter Blast towards you, those are going to go faster now. It's going to mean that you are better able to slow people when you gank them, basically. Because right now, when you see the Splinter Blast coming, you know what's going to happen. You start running away. These being faster means that they're going to hit you when you're closer to where your opponents want you to be. Once you get the stun talent at 25 as well, this is going to be even better. It's also likely going to make the shard feel a lot better on Wyvern as well. The slow is not that incredible. It's only 30%, but still. I'm sure these won't be bad buffs for the hero. It just makes your skills more effective, even if it's small amounts. Witchdoctor Maledict damage per second increased at all levels, but definitely a lot better at level 1. So right now it does 144 damage with 1 skill point. It's pretty good, not to mention the damage amp on top of that. So it's pretty solid level 1 skill. Went up from, used to do like 84, so that's a huge increase. Does a lot more damage at level 1. So level 1 Maledict, pretty sick right now. Lost health per damage is 16%, so deal 200 damage, it's an extra 30, so it's probably not hard. Oh, and that procs multiple times though. I don't know, Maledict is probably really sick at level 1 right now, like actually legitimately super, super good. Especially if you paired it with one other hero with a disable too, or a stun, or a nuke. Maledict seems really, really good. So maybe, like the problem with Witchdoctor right now is kind of the way that he's always functioned. He is a lane winner. He can either heal your allies, or you can Maledict dumpster your opponents. But then when you go in mid and late game, the hero kind of sucks really bad. Maledict is okay, and if you apply it before BKB, but throwing Cask at anybody in the mid or late game, they blink away, they BKB, they Manta dodge, they walk away. Cask kind of sucks in a lot of situations late game. Your heal is not that good, and even like Maledict ulting people in the mid and late game just doesn't feel that good. The Shard I think is decent because it gives you a really nice ability to play around your opponents in some ways because you can dodge spells and avoid danger, but Maledict ulting people doesn't feel so good. So Witchdoctor in the ultra late game just doesn't feel like a good hero, which is why pros never pick him. I remember watching a game where Seneko like fucking owned on the hero, going like 5-0, and then for the entire rest of the game he was fucking useless, even though he had played like the most incredible early game Witchdoctor game I'd ever seen in my whole ass life. And Cask can be really good, obviously, if people are grouped together, but generally the hero just feels bad. I think the Cask talent at 15 is really good right now in Witchdoctor, the one that gives you 2 more bounces, because Cask right now does more damage every time it bounces. So the last 2 bounces, they do like 300 magic damage each hit. So Cask is legitimately a good farming tool right now. But Witchdoctor doesn't necessarily channel that into like good things. I don't know. I like playing Witchdoctor as a heal bot personally, with like Greaves and Holy Locket. I think that's kind of fun. It's not necessarily good. I don't know how pros would play the hero, but hey, if they want to pick Witchdoctor right now, Maledict is going to do way more damage at level 1. That could be a way that they abuse regen on somebody. If you pair him with some like strong one that has harass, whether it's CK or Luna or something like that, I could maybe see Maledict being really okay against some heroes like that. Just abuse them. All right, Zeus, and then we look at Underlord. Heavenly jump distance increased by a little bit. 500's a huge distance, I gotta say. It's like a legitimate escape. Arc lightning damage buffed by 10. Lightning bolt cast point reduced by a little bit. I'm curious what his win rate is right now. Omni Knight on top, baby. Arc Warden. I didn't know his win rate was so stupid high, and he just got a 2 base damage buff. We didn't see any changes to Visage. This guy's still good. Meeple's up there. That's interesting. They buffed Chen. Wasn't by that much, I don't think, right? I can't remember. Anyways, who was I looking for? Zeus or something? I feel like Zeus's win rate's probably kind of mediocre right now because he needs Shard to be effective. That takes a lot of gold. Did I miss him? Is he really this low? There's no way. Oh my god, he really is down here. 46. Man, that he definitely needed a buff. Arc Lightning, 10 damage is pretty big. He's going to get way more last hits in the laning stage. In terms of like overall other damage other than that, and it's kind of irrelevant, but 10 damage for Arc Lightning is a big deal. That's not where I wanted to be. I wanted to go back to here. Yeah, 90 damage. Like, how do you miss last hits with that? 90 is huge. That's a really, really good level 1 nuke. It's still 80 mana, which is kind of a lot, but 90 damage, level 1 nuke. 1 skill point. That's a 1 point wonder right there. Really, really good ability. The problem is that Lightning Bolt is kind of expensive. The cast point being reduced is kind of helpful. Heavenly Jump is a good escape. Decent slow, but takes a lot of skill points. I think he's going to need more to be more effective. Even if adding Heavenly Jump was necessary, it's going to take time to buff him in other areas to offset the loss of static field, because his raw damage is just so much less now. Okay, so that's the patch. Let's go take a look at Underlord, everyone's favorite hero on the patch. So if you guys are wondering why they changed Firestorm, I don't remember who was talking about it. I think I saw a Reddit post about a week ago, but it showed that the shard for Underlord was bugged, what it does is it does more firestorm falls. Or it's just a... Oh, I was like a free axe on the ground. It does more firestorm waves, because right now it does 6 waves. What the shard would do is made it do it faster, and it said it would decrease the interval reduction, because the problem is that if it does 6 waves every second, and every second you get a 1% max HP burn, if you want it to do damage faster and have the waves come down faster, it makes sense for the max HP burn percentage to also go up. But I believe what the Reddit thread showed, or the image showed, was that the shard didn't actually increase the damage of the burn interval. It just increased the damage from firestorm waves. Oops, I already bought the shard. Let's switch heroes. And then we will go back to everyone's favorite hero, Underlord. Okay, and then we'll just do a dummy target. And hopefully this doesn't just instantly kill it because of the bug or whatever. So they fucked it up. They really fucked it up. They really, really fucked it up. I don't even have the fucking shard yet. They basically did something to try to fix this bug that fucked up the interval of the burn, and it ruined everything. Even without the shard, they fucking ruined it. That was 36,000 damage. Anyways, when you buy the shard, it does it faster. And it's supposed to increase the tick interval rate. See, look how much more damage it did. It went from about 30,000 to 39,000. That sounds about right. It's increasing the waves by 3. And therefore, the burn duration goes up by a little bit, I think, right? 3 more bonuses. They happen 25% faster. So it goes up by 50, but down by 25. So it goes from 6 seconds of activated burning to 7.5 is probably what it does. So it should do a 1.5% more burning. Does it just do a lot because he has high HP? No, the ticks are obviously insane. But anyways, it does a 1.5 more of burning, and it does 3 extra waves. So the 3 waves do 70 damage each. That's 210, and then it should do at least 1.5% more burn damage. So if people are inside the burning, they will take at least 25% more from the max burn damage than they did before by buying shard. So shard will now give you much more single target damage, or AoE damage as well if you want to look at it that way. But if you're trying to deal with like a super tanky guy, and Underlord doesn't have the best single target damage, all you have to do is play on this patch and then cast literally any spell, and you win. Alright, you guys happy? We did it. His Firestorm doesn't remove TA refraction. Why not? Oh, you can still cast on yourself. Doesn't remove the cast point anymore, though. Wait, when used that way, it follows around. Oh, yeah. I mean, you don't have to cast on yourself. It's still, Did it go from 37 to 39? Is that true? I mean, this is kind of like a bad estimation anyways. Well, it was really that's it, huh? Try it on a hero, sure. Yeah, it seems very good. Yeah, they fucked it up. It's bugged. They bugged it. It's not balanced. They fucked it up bad. Anyways, it should do 25% more burning damage over time. Because it should proc more often. Is my understanding. It says the interval. Does it mean that? That's how I interpreted it, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the whole goal is that they fall faster. I'd have to read the wiki, I guess. Like, if they fall faster, it's better against creep waves, obviously. But I gotta read the details about the interval, the percentage burn. Because I don't really see a lot of benefit to buying the shard, if this is all it does. Yeah, it says the burn duration goes down to 1.5 on Dota 2 wiki, so it does go down. So if you buy the shard, it's supposed to burn 25% faster, so it ticks every... Well, is that what that means? Oh, it means that it deals its full damage in 1.5 seconds instead of 2. But that means the same thing, right? So if I stand in the pit for... What's divisible by both?
Your middle tower is under attack.
What's a number that's divisible by both 2 and 1.5? I'm blanking, guys. I forgot the easy way to do this in math. It's been so long. I do not know. I guess 6. Okay, thank you guys. Very simple. Yes, that's an easy one. Sorry, my brain not working. So, if it ticks faster, in a 6-second period, you'll do 4 instances of shard damage versus 3 instances of regular damage. So, you should do 25% more, right? So, you're doing 33% more damage, basically. From the percentage. So shard should increase the burn damage by 25% because over the, if not more than that, right? Because if the burn is trickling in faster, and it does waves for longer, up to 7.5 seconds, you're talking like a shitload of damage increase. Like it's a huge, it should be like a fucking huge damage increase. Anyways, we'll find out. It's bugged. It was bugged. They tried to fix it and they fucked it up. And now we have this. This is all without shard. 36,901. I mean, he still did a lot. But that was only like a 10% damage difference or something. Which is not so significant. Yeah, the numbers are broken. Clearly. It's probably been patched, but we'll see how long it takes them to fix it. Add a Kaya Sanj and Meltzer. Yeah, of course, because we'd be increasing spell damage, but... Rubik has same damage, and now they're countering bugged or underload Rubik. That makes sense, because then you can steal the spell, and then, yeah, just don't pick it, guys. That's just scum. The only person that's allowed to do it is the first person that... Anybody that accidentally picks Underlord and finds out. Everybody else, scum. I remember when the patch came out, and people realized you could buy multiple blade mills on the same hero. Shit was so fucking annoying. So annoying. Oh, it's on me. That's why I did this. That's why I wasn't on the right area. They just bought like 4 blade mills on the same hero. So every time you attack them, you do like 100% damage back. It was really fucking obnoxious. And they were like, oh, sorry, haha. And I'm like, you could just not buy multiple blade mills, you pieces of shit. Bastards. Yeah, the skill's bugged. Alright. You don't have to be bad people, guys. Move on. Okay, that's it for the stream. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm about to go. I have to go to the gym and I have to relax. I've been on my computer since 7:30 this morning, which was 11 hours and 30 minutes ago. So it is time for me to relax. time to eject. I'm going to run ads now. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm going to upload this on YouTube ASAP. And then you guys can get my thoughts. I'm currently casting the, what's it called? Gamers Without Borders tournament. You guys can tune into that if you want. You can find it on Twitch. It's probably the easiest way, because I don't think there's a Liquipedia page for it. But other than that, you will see me at the major next week. I'm leaving on the 9th, which is in 5 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Leaving on Monday morning, arriving Tuesday. Oh, I thought I was arriving Monday. I'm arriving Tuesday. Okay. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Goodbye.